Hi guys, so as most of you all know, I don't usually do this sort of thing. I don't really like talking to the camera, something I'm going to have to get used to. But I decided that it was probably necessary for me to go over a little bit of who I am and what I do. Having spoken to one of my friends recently, hopefully I'll be able to show him soon. But we discussed that to be interesting in this, that you have to show people what's unique about you. There are a couple of things that I think would interest a lot of people about myself. So to start at the beginning. When I started all of this fitness stuff, I was around 14 stone, 13, 14 stone, I can't quite remember if I'm honest. I definitely didn't care about the gym, I wasn't interested, I hadn't done any of this sort of stuff before. I think I'd seen a gym and found it kind of boring, and obviously you see those guys posting about the gym, and at the time I thought they were dicks, which is embarrassing because that's now me. I started to go to the gym because my brother needed a spotter. He was actually the first reason I went. He dragged me down and he kept me going for about a week. And after that, I kind of realised I liked it. I enjoyed the idea that maybe I was going to get somewhere with this. That I could possibly become a little bit thinner, maybe a bit better looking. I definitely had my own history of being bullied quite aggressively. For being short and for being fat. Two features that really don't help you in childhood. So I decided to stick at it for a while. And that was just before starting uni, so I was about 19, having taken a year out. And then uni had a very good reception for being in slightly better shape. I'd managed to lose a bit of fat and gain a little bit of muscle, so I had a decent shape to me, and people were quite receptive of that sort of thing, and I definitely made a lot more friends than I was used to having, which was amazing. The only problem was, as soon as you start with this sort of fitness thing, it's really easy to get carried away, and I did, massively. A lot of people who know me quite closely will know that I have a little bit of a darker past in terms of my mental state. I found it very easy to get addicted to an idea and to be quite harsh on myself. Yeah, a very troubled young man. So when I started doing well with fitness, I found that losing fat, people liked it. So if I could lose more, maybe I'd start to like myself more. So I lost more and more, and I dieted harder and harder, not knowing about macros or calorie deficits. I just knew the concept of eat less, work more. So after a while you'd find me training for an hour in the morning, going for a run, 2 to 3 hours during the day, and maybe in the evening I'd go for another run. Aside from that, my dietary intake was roughly 800 to 1,000 calories. Considering I'm now on 3,500, you can tell that I was suffering. This left me very lethargic all of the time. Sadly, not only was this orthorexia, which, if you don't know, is about clean eating, excessive obsession with what you're taking in, which is something I try to steer a lot of people away as a flexible dieter. And then I took that to another stage, which I'm not ashamed to say because it's part of my past, but I was bulimic. And so purging after any form of, actually almost any intake really, I was very critical of what I was taking in. And if I felt that I'd taken a bit too much sugar in a food, then I would purge, and this was an ongoing thing for me. After a while, I'd lost a lot of weight, and if you check me out on Instagram, you can see some of those pictures, and sadly they're the best reception I've ever had. I was shredded, as they call it. I was also about 62 kilos and not an ounce of muscle left on me because I had dieted so hard. At the end of this I'll pan over some of the pictures on my wall. As you can see, I like to remind myself of my mistakes and some of my history. So anyway, after having dieted so hard and becoming quite a bit thinner, I realised I liked lifting, but I couldn't do it. I was getting so lethargic, it was time to maybe make a little bit of change. And so I became interested in lifting heavier. As we all do, it's quite a lot of fun. So I started lifting heavier, and I found that the biggest problem was I didn't have the energy. So all I did was start to remind myself again and again, I need a bit more food, I can lift a bit heavier. Need a bit more food, lift even heavier. And this is how I fell into powerlifting, just by chance of pursuing strength as a way of justifying food. Why it's one of my favourite sports. So I started lifting quite heavy. I remember the first time I deadlifted 140, I'd probably crossed the 1,600 calories mark. A very lightweight, I know, but we'll move into that. So I started to progress quite well. I was starting to eat more food, I was starting to gain a little bit more muscle, but I'd set myself back about a year now, so my progress had started to slow down already. At that point, I think I seemed to make quite a dramatic change. At a point when I was single, I kind of got a bit more time to focus on studying the gym and learning about the gym, learning about dieting techniques and what calories I needed, calculated that, made some big jumps, got past 2,000, and things were on the right track. I definitely wasn't sound, but I was getting better. With my current girlfriend, Holly Dexter, absolutely incredible girl, and she accepted my lifestyle, but also I took on flexible dieting. I learnt a bit more about what I could eat, what I couldn't eat, how I could get away with having some of those things that used to make me so guilty, and it's taken me from wherever I was to where I am now. So now I compete at national level in powerlifting, which is really odd to say, which is quite nice to be able to say. My dietary intake is much better. I'd say I'm mentally sound. I'm not afraid of not being able to track. I'm not afraid of eating anything anymore. And physically, I've come on leaps and bounds. Now, I do restrict myself to a certain weight, so I'm competitive, which is still only 75 kilos. But at 5'7", I hold that pretty well. I still have a relatively decent size to me. I think what most people don't understand is that it's not about dieting, or it shouldn't be about dieting. It should just be about a lifestyle change, and sadly I wasted a lot of time getting that wrong. Aside from all of that, one of the other things I'd like to know is that I do have a syndrome, I believe it's just some sort of condition. I have a bone condition called hypermobility syndrome. And what this means is I have excessively flexible joints, but the syndrome means it develops quite a lot of aches and pains, starting in school from not being able to write properly to current day of some serious aches and pains from lifting. I was advised by doctors not to lift anything particularly heavy, probably stick to a backpack, 15 kilos, and now I'm deadlifting in the mid-200s, so you can see there's some problems that come from that. I definitely shouldn't do the excessive lifting I do. General lifting I think is exceptional, and I think anyone with my problem should definitely be involved in that. And if you do have hypermobility, please contact me, because I do like talking about it. I'm interested in what people work around it, because it caused me a hell of a lot of problems, and it still does. And if you can hear this, everything does that all the time. I'm sorry if that makes you cringe. So yeah, I've had that, and then I've had my history of dieting and those mistakes. Aside from this, I do my own studies. Obviously I'm a university student, aiming on to my masters now, but I don't think there's much more you need to know. I just want people to know that where I've come from, I do have an understanding of a lot of this. I have an understanding of what it's like to be overweight, and I sure as hell have an understanding of what it's like to be underweight and eating disorders, and overcoming some physical difficulties. I'll tell you now, when I couldn't stand up holding 60 kilos when I started deadlifting, that was a lot of pain, and I couldn't bench because of the pain in my shoulders, and I sure as hell didn't like squatting. So I'm prepared to help people with pretty much all of those realms, and I can learn pretty much about the rest of it. But I think it's important that people know why I go on about what I do, or why I have these social medias. I'm not trying to be just another guy lifting stuff. I'm trying to be someone to help people. And that's kind of all I had to say. So I'll pan over some of the stuff so you can see the pictures that I used to do. I'd include it in special clips, but I'm not that good at this yet. So I'll do that, and I do really appreciate you guys for watching. It's nice to have a bit of a voice and have some amazing feedback from some of you. So if I can help anyone else out, please do give me a message. And if you have any questions, again, just comment below. Please do subscribe. I'll try and get some more videos out, and I'll try and do a few more of these.